If your business feels like you're constantly pushing a boulder uphill, you're probably blaming all the usual things, right? Marketing, sales, maybe your product isn't quite right. But what if I told you the real problem isn't any of those things? What if the solution is one single massive shift that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time?
I want to start with this quote from entrepreneur Alex Hormozi, because it just cuts right through all the noise. He says, "You're not making as much as you want because you probably have sucky customers." It's blunt for sure, but it points to a truth that quietly torpedoes so many businesses. The problem so often isn't what you're selling.
And that's the whole idea. See, we get so obsessed with tweaking our service, perfecting the product, but we miss the fact that the real roadblock is the type of customer we're serving. So let's look at a few really clear warning signs that tell you if this is actually your problem.
Okay, let's do a little gut check here. Do any of these sound painfully familiar? Customers who bail after just a couple of months. The ones who are always in your support inbox, always demanding more. How about the constant haggling over price? Or that feeling where you bend over backwards for them and they're still not happy? If you're not in your head right now, you are almost certainly serving the wrong people. And this leads to a really important idea you need to know about.
It's this concept called structural churn. Now, this is the kind of customer churn that you literally cannot fix. Why? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with you or your business. It's when your customers leave because their businesses are unstable or failing. You could have the best service in the world and they'd still be gone. It's a leak you can't plug.
And here's a perfect real-world example. A friend of Hormozi's was running a software company for gyms, and he was losing 3% of his customers every single month. Now, that wasn't because they hated his software. It's because the gyms themselves were going bust. Think about that. That's over a third of his customers disappearing every year for reasons completely outside of his control.
And that's exactly why serving this kind of customer is like building a magnificent castle on a foundation of sand. It doesn't matter how strong your walls are or how beautiful your towers are. The moment that tide of structural churn comes in, your entire business just gets washed away. The problem was never the castle, it was the ground you built it on.
All right, so we've identified that shaky foundation. But now, let's talk about the true cost, because the damage goes so much deeper than just losing a few customers. This is how this problem will quietly and systematically destroy your business from the inside out. These bad fit clients, they launch a full-on assault on the 3 pillars of sustainable growth. These are the core numbers, the absolute lifeblood of any healthy business. They're what determines whether you scale to the moon or just slowly fade away. So let's break this down. First, your lifetime value, or LTV. That's basically what a customer is worth to you over time. It just plummets. They churn out fast, they fight you on price, they drain your resources. Second, your customer acquisition cost, or CAC, what you pay to get a new customer. It starts to creep up because unhappy people don't give you good word of mouth. And third, your payback period. How long it takes to make your money back. It gets stretched out so long that it absolutely crushes your cash flow.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, with these bad customers, you're lucky if you break even. You spend $1 to acquire them, and you make $1 back over their lifetime. That's not a business, that's a treadmill. But on the right, with good customers, that ratio can be 5 to 1, 10 to 1. That is the engine that actually fuels growth.
And then there's the cost that you never see on a spreadsheet, but it might be the biggest one of all, the opportunity cost. Every single hour your team spends putting out fires for a bad client is an hour they could have spent innovating, improving, and delighting a great one. Just think about it. What could your business become if all that energy was focused on building up instead of just bailing water?
Okay, so we've diagnosed the disease, we've seen the damage. Now for the good part, the cure. Let's get into the step-by-step game plan for executing what we're going to call the profitable pivot. Now, the very first step, and honestly, this is the hardest one, is mental. You have to understand that you might be stuck on what's called a local maximum. It feels like you're at the top, but it's really just a small hill that's blocking your view of the real mountain. And to get to that higher peak, you have to be willing to go downhill for a little while first. And yeah, that means being brave enough to let go of some revenue, which is a really tough pill to swallow. So, how do you actually do it? Well, here's the 5-step plan. First, you dig in and analyze your winners, your absolute best customers. What do they all have in common? Second, you use that data to define your new, crystal clear, ideal customer profile. Third, you realign your entire business, your message, your offer, everything, to attract only that person. Fourth, and this is so critical, you get really good at saying no to anyone who isn't a perfect fit. And finally, you start that gradual transition, phasing out the old to make space for the new.
Right now, your business might feel like this. 80% of your energy, your team's morale, your time, it's all being sucked up by customers who are a bad fit, leaving just 20% for the ones who actually move the needle. It's exhausting.
The whole goal of this pivot is to completely flip that ratio on its head. You want to go from that chaos to this, a calm, profitable, focused business where 90% of your customers are the ones who absolutely love working with, the ones who get amazing results, who pay on time, and who stick around for the long haul. This isn't a pipe dream. It's the direct result of making one brave, strategic choice. So, it really leaves you with this choice. You can stay right here, which all but guarantees a slow, painful decline filled with burnout and shrinking margins. Or you can pivot. And yes, it might mean a short-term dip. But on the other side of that dip is better morale, real scalable growth, and a business you're actually proud of. The funny thing is, the real risk isn't in making the change. It's in staying the same.
So I'm going to leave you with one final thought to really chew on. Right now, picture your single best customer, the one that, if you could, you would just clone them 100 times over. Who is that person? And more importantly, what's really stopping you from building a business that only serves people just like them?